Welcome back to Cheddar, everyone. A mega merger in the cannabis industry. Greenlane and KushCo are merging to create one of the biggest makers of accessories for the cannabis industry. The all-stock deal will value the combined company at more than $400 million. Cheddar's cannabis reporter Chloe Aiello has more. Chloe, take it away.
Thanks, Brad. The merger of Greenlane and KushCo will bring together two pioneering cannabis ancillary product and services company with a combined 25 plus years of operating history. Joining us now to discuss all this is Nick Kovacevich, co-founder, chairman, and CEO of KushCo Holdings, and Aaron LoCascio, the CEO of Greenlane. Nick and Aaron, thank you so much for joining us today. I do want to kick things off with Nick. You'll be the CEO of the combined company once the transaction does go through. The announcement that you sent out did enumerate a bunch of the reasons that you're making this merger, that it makes sense for you. Among them, 50 to 20 million in terms of synergies the next 2 years, generating a combined pro forma revenue of $250 million, plus putting all of your brands under one roof, including Higher Standards, Marley Naturals. So tell us, in your opinion, which of these reasons are the key ones? Which are most important?
Yeah, look, they're all extremely important. We're super excited. I think it's also has to do with the macro environment. Right now, cannabis is on fire. We know New York just legalized yesterday. And so putting these two companies together makes us one of the largest players globally. And we know this industry is set to take off, not just here in the States, but also in Europe as well, where Greenlane has a great toehold via an acquisition they did recently. So we're really well positioned to capitalize on the future of this industry. We have house brands, as you mentioned, that are higher margin categories. Combine that with KushCo's legacy business, where we service the leading multi-state operators in the industry. And as you know, those companies can't list on the major exchanges yet, but Greenlane is listed on NASDAQ. So it's an opportunity for investors to buy into this legal cannabis industry via a NASDAQ listed stock and still get some participation, as we're here servicing a lot of the leading industry players. And we're also servicing consumers globally.
And you make some really great points there. Aaron, I want to bring you into this conversation. What did KushCo specifically kind of bring to the table that you felt Greenlane was lacking?
So, I mean, again, echoing a lot what Nick said, on top of that, there is, despite the similarities between the organizations, there's actually, they're remarkably different. So being able to cross-sell and upsell between product lines and customer bases really speaks to a tremendous opportunity between the organizations. Add that on top of the additional cost synergies, and we really have a very powerful combination that we're very excited about.
Absolutely. And Nick, I want to take things back a little bit because at the onset of the coronavirus pandemic, I know KushCo was struggling. Shares plunged precipitously in September of that year. We were going through the vape crisis at that time. And then obviously the company was hit by supply chain disruptions at the early onset of the coronavirus pandemic. Pricing has recovered a little bit, now trading around, last I checked, about $1.30 a share. Can you tell us a little bit about how things have changed for the company since in the past year, since this very tumultuous time for KushCo?
Yeah, unfortunately, we were hit with some things that were outside of our control. Fortunately, those were temporary headwinds, and I think we've surpassed most, if not all of them. So the company had to go through a little bit of restructuring. We had developed a strategic plan that we executed on. It was a phenomenal job from our management team to be able to do this, despite the macro events that we were facing. And we got through. We cut the cost of the business. We focused on the right segments of the business. More importantly, we aligned with the right customers, the leading publicly traded multi-state operators in this industry and Canadian LPs. And doing all of that got the company back to growth, where we've now seen 2 straight quarters of growth. And we're expected, per the analyst, to announce a 3rd straight quarter of growth here soon. And we were also able to get back to profitability for the first time in 3 years. So folks are really impressed with the turnaround that we had. Certainly the Greenlane team, this was an important factor in when they looked at this merger. And the one thing that I think has been holding KushCo back has been our OTC listing. So again, via this transaction, we will be able to list our shares on NASDAQ under the symbol GNLN. And I think this is probably the last step, in my opinion, to creating maximal shareholder value for everybody involved.
Thank you for sharing that insight there. And Aaron, I want to toss it over to you to kind of build off something that Nick was talking about. We've obviously seen really tremendous momentum in the cannabis industry in terms of legalization. Even this past week, obviously, New York just legalizing adult use cannabis, New Mexico making moves to do so also. How is this new combined company going to be poised to take advantage of these new markets opening up on the state level, especially when it comes to New York?
So, yeah, great question. And I take it back to some of the comments that I made earlier about being able to cross-sell and upsell products between customer bases. KushCo has done a tremendous job selling upstream to the large MSOs and LPs, which speaks to a tremendous opportunity for us to take some of the CPG brands that aren't yet traditionally sold in dispensaries and give them the opportunity to add additional revenue to their stores. And we think the potential is quite enormous for these MSOs to actually increase their revenue profile and profitability of their organizations. We've done so at early stages in a kind of base case scenario, tested a few MSO tests. It's gone very well. KushCo has these tremendous relationships already. So being able to, again, cross-pollinate between the organizations is quite exciting.
Absolutely. And Nick, we have time for one more question, and I want to bring it to the federal level. We've seen progress there as well. We got an update from Senator Schumer also this week, big week in cannabis, of course, suggesting that his legislation would be coming soon. What are you expecting from this legislation? I know from what I've heard, it sounds like it'll be very sweeping.
I agree. I think, the folks in office and led by Chuck Schumer and, of course, Cory Booker, Ron Wyden, they're saying, hey, enough's enough. We need to make sweeping changes here, not incremental changes. So we're expecting full-blown federal legalization. We're expecting programs out there that are going to help the people that have been negatively affected by the war on drugs. This is what everybody in the industry wants, right? And so creating markets, it's great for businesses, but if we're not also helping the people that were disproportionately affected by this war on drugs, then we're not doing our job. So I think we have to encompass both. I think the legislation will. I'm really excited. I hope it can get through. There's a lot of different bills getting passed around. We know the Safe Banking Act is now back in play. So it should be an exciting year for cannabis, but the great news is it's seeming more and more inevitable that there will be changes at the federal level, and that's just going to unlock a ton of value for companies in the space.
Nick, Aaron, thank you so much for joining us and for talking about this merger with us today. That's Nick Kovacevich. He's the co-founder, chairman, and CEO of KushCo Holdings, and Aaron LoCascio, the CEO of Greenlane.